were the first channel to break this information that there is a crackdown that is happening. I'll get to that in just a bit. Here is the information that we are getting. The inner workings of the PFI and how this entire organization is structured. The chairman is OMA Salam. The vice chairman is EM Abdul Rahman. The general secretary is Anis Ahmed. Then there are other secretaries under him, that is VP Nasruddin, Afsar Pasha and Mohammad Shakif. Then there are core committees which are conducted. The PFI operations are handled by 15 councils. The key operations are run by 4 departments. So these 4 departments are the expansion department, the guidance department. They also have a spy department, physical training department. Now this physical training department, one of the aspects is the hit squad, which Ashish Merishi was talking about. And there was similar training that was being imparted with weapons, IEDs, etc. even in Bihar and also in Karnataka when the raids had happened. Overseas wings. The overseas wings are in Saudi Arabia, which is headed by Sharafuddin Pazehari. UAE, headed by Noshad Badriuddin. Oman, headed by Ashfaq. In Qatar, it is headed by Dr. Taj Alwa. And in Turkey, it's headed by NM Kuryakal. So these people are responsible for collection there, increasing the cadre base there, and then further going ahead and propagating the objectives of the PFI back in India and then routing those funds back in India. So this is a multi-headed hydra, Pathikrit Payne, not an easy one. Not an easy one to crack. And if they had to go after the entire organization, they had to go from top to bottom.
Yes, Anand, first of all, let me say that I must congratulate the agencies because if we have to compare it, I would rather compare the kind of coordination with the Balakot strike in terms of the level of intelligence coordination, the kind of logistical inputs, the logistical preparations, the kind of confidentiality they had to keep, the level of coordination between IB, ED, NIA, and possibly even DRI. There was this incident in 2018 when in Jharkhand the PFI was banned, and unfortunately the Jharkhand High Court actually set aside that ban, and that was something that was going in the minds of the agencies, that if you ban it without having a rock solid foolproof evidence in place, you don't it may not pass the test of scrutiny in the court because they have very good lawyers on their side also. So what I think, Anand, that would happen, I'm sure there will be more arrests based on the interrogations and the forensic analysis of all the electronic devices. I think the template that would be there possibly in terms of investigation and thereafter will be the Bhima Koregaon template, because as you peel the layers off, you will see there are sinister elements inside plants. And see in Bihar, there was this report they've already trained 15,000 youth in arms.
Yes.
So what are they doing with that? Are they actually preparing to wage a war? And that is why the PMLA acts or the Section
UAPA.
121 of IPC, UAPA and the PMLA, both I think they will be charged under. And I think some of them might even go to the court to get some kind of a stay order relief. I am sure they will not get that kind of, because once you have these charges of waging a war, you don't get relief so soon. But the bigger concern, I think it's just a step one in the whole process. You have to deal with the radicalized lot. I mean, I'm sure as an organization, they have the succession plan in place. The top 100 might be in jail. The next 100 will try to take over, have another name and carry on with the operations. How do you de-radicalize? That is a major challenge. And how do you deal with the next thing? Because, and I'm sure the government is careful about this as well. So there are multifaceted battles they have to fight. First of all, if they go for the banning, they have to fight it out in the court of law. And at the same time, how do you deal with the radicalized trained youth already? How do you de-radicalize that? The de-radicalization architecture is something very important. Unfortunately, the forces in the country, they are so much involved in the day-to-day tactical operations. It's not their job. So something else has to be there in terms of defanging them. That is something very important. Otherwise, tomorrow, like CIMI gave rise to PFI, tomorrow there might be another organization coming up with some another name like Peace or Foundation of India or some Nobel Foundation of India, and then they'll do the same thing. So it's a work in progress, I would rather say, but it's a great step in the right direction.
No, and not just that. See, SIMI, Student Islamic Movement of India, became Indian Mujahideen, and then it became Popular Front of India. See how they evolved even with their names. This is an organization that backed a man who stood in court and said, I don't even earn for 5,000 rupees, but they had the ability to pay more than 1 crore in legal fees as far as the Hadia case was concerned, just so that they knew that if they win one case, they will be able to smother the remaining 999. The other fact is they go in the hijab matter, they go to the High Court and say say that hijab is an essential religious practice in Islam. In the Supreme Court, they tweak that argument when they realize that this argument could backfire, and they say, oh, please understand it as culturally necessary. And then they make it a matter of dignity. So that's how they evolve their legal arguments, and they have a battery of lawyers who they can engage because they are flush with funds too. Swapnil Kothari, will this stand the test of legal scrutiny? When you arrest 100 plus people, will each one will be tried individually or as a collective? You can ban an organization, but when you get into the individual aspect, you need to have a strong, solid case against each one of them.
Anand, very well put by you, and congratulations to the CNN News team for putting this, especially by Manoj Gupta, the way he put it. I think that itself should be sufficient, along with the evidence that the prosecution will, buttress in the court of law and argue on the basis of that, to show that UAPA, PMLA, IPC, all of these draconian legislations, especially UAPA and PMLA, will be involved, where obviously the burden of proof is extremely pretty much on the accused as opposed to the IPC, where it's on the prosecution. But I think when you put these three together, it's virtually impossible to get bail. And, once they are in the custodial interrogation, they'll sing like canaries. And obviously a lot of things will come out which hitherto have not been come out. Now, multiple agency raids, multiple agencies coming before a court of law. It is very, very rare that it will not stand legal scrutiny. The judge will be more than inclined and more than happy. I mean, he doesn't have much say there at all. Especially, let me tell you, regardless of how much money you have and you have the best defense lawyers, there is very little defense when you have multiple agencies crack down on you at multiple places. So, in law, when you have these kind of, this kind of a comprehensive attack or a comprehensive raid on your organization from all fronts, then there is very little that any defense lawyer, howsoever ingenious or brilliant that may be, he or she may be, will be able to sustain the defense. So the point is very simple, that you are looking at a long amount of custodial interrogation, especially, 80, 90 days, easily you'll get it. And then thereafter, of course, you have to produce your charge sheet and then eventually try to get a fast-track trial, because obviously when NIA and all of these agencies are involved, they'll definitely ask for a fast-tracking of these things, and they should. And I think what needs to be done is, apart from freezing bank accounts of certain individuals, I think overall, entirely comprehensively of this organization, the enforcement director will have to work, I think, overnight and, burn midnight oil for a long period of time to crack down on all sorts of funding. Not only bank accounts, but there could be other non-official, or should I say unofficial funding as well from different places. Cash amounts could be huge. I mean, I can only see a lot of amount of cash somewhere coming in, because Hawala and all of these things, usually, of course, they take the flavor of bank transfers as well. But other than that, I'm sure there's a huge amount of cash money involved, Anand. And I think the more you dig in this as a channel yourself, I think the more service you will do to the nation, in helping the judiciary, trying to, eventually, because once you put these things out in the public domain, debate after debate, Anand, the judiciary is always watching these kind of things, and it becomes very